Ah, boy. So, it's been actually not too long, but I don't know. I just felt like bringing back the podcasts for a bit. Even if it is just this one episode, I don't really know where else to really go with this because I don't really want to go to Twitter about it because Twitter's a fucking cesspool. So I'm just gonna do this here. And, what I'm talking about today is going to be my character crisis that I've been having in Smash Ultimate. Which, it's really unfortunate because I think that there's a good chance I may have kind of shot myself in the foot with something I said early on in the game's lifespan, and I'll get to that later, but first, let's give a bit of a background. So, Smash 4 came out like late 2014 on the 3DS and early 2015 on the Wii U, if I remember properly. And then Roy released his DLC in late 2015, if I recall right. Which, I absolutely loved playing Roy in Smash 4, despite the fact that he wasn't seen as the greatest by the community. So, I decided to pick him up and main him. And I absolutely loved it. It was super fun. And it got to the point where I honestly believed that he was not as bad as most of the community thought. I thought that, yeah, he wasn't high tier or anything, but that he was rather like a lower or a middle of the pack mid tier. Which, I know a lot of people are going to call me crazy, but that's how I felt as a Smash 4 Roy main. And of course, everyone had a Pocket Bayonetta and Cloud, including myself. I will admit, I was not going to just play one low tier character because I didn't get to go to many tournaments. Hell, I had to pretty much host the ones that I went to. But this kind of leads me into my next point. I've always played a handful of characters, like whether it be seriously or just joking around. And with me already having the knowledge of Roy and Smash 4, I ended up picking up Marth and Lucina. And when I ended up going to that Boys and Girls Club that I had went to and held the tournaments at, and I forget which year, but it was the summer of some year in between school. Well, the Wii U that one of the workers brought there for us to play on while we were there, he did not have any of the DLC stuff with him. So, we had to go back to base roster characters and no Dreamland for competitive stages, which, honestly, I didn't mind too much. I had a solid pool of characters that I used, and I ended up, like, I don't really know whether to call it quad maining or not, because the character that I use most in those tournaments by far is Lucina. She is the one who carried me so far, but at the same time, I also played like a lot of all of Luigi, Fox, and Zero Suit Samus in Smash 4 and in those tournaments. So that's where I kind of get confused about whether or not to call it a quad main, because I did use Lucina most, but I used them all similarly enough to her. And that kind of brings me to early Ultimate. After the trailer's released and the E3 demo happens, well, absolutely great. Everyone's psyched. Everyone wants Ultimate to come out. Everyone's super excited. And I'm watching a few videos from people who have been able to play the demo at E3 with all the different characters. And one thing that I've heard a lot is that Roy got better. So, then and there, here's that commitment I was talking about earlier. I made a commitment that I was going to play Roy throughout the entirety of Ultimate's lifespan, since he was better and he was massively considered a top tier before release and high tier on release. So, super excited. Whenever I first got Ultimate, I ended up mostly, I think it was Pikachu that I played until I unlocked all the characters. Just because super busted ass character that he was. And then obviously I ended up maining Roy, but I have never really been a solo main. From the start of Ultimate, I've had a lot of different secondaries I've used at different points in time. And I know that one of my pockets that was a pretty good pocket I had in Smash 4 and got a handful of decent wins with for my level was Link. And I had a pretty good Toon Link in Smash 4 as well that I just didn't use as much. I thought Young Link would be really good in between, so I picked up Young Link for the first 2 years, and then I enjoyed playing Palutena. I was good with Palutena, so I was like, fuck it. I'll add her to my roster, 3 characters, boom. And it was like that until about, I think, mid-2019, where Roy was still in my roster, but he was no longer my main. I started maining Wario, put Roy over to a secondary, and then started playing PT as a secondary as well, Pokemon trainer for those who don't know. So, I bet you can probably guess who I was fucking basing that off of. Tweak's success, but yeah, had those 3 for a roster of characters for a while. Then eventually I just went back about early 2020 when all the pandemic shit happened. We all know how crazy that was, and I was just like, okay. Wario and PT, both really not good online. Roy may not be either, but he's by far the character that I have the most experience with and am best with. So, I do still want to keep him around, especially because I made that verbal commitment, and I was just like, fuck it. Game & Watch helps with most of Roy's bad matchups, especially because this was before Steve releasing. It was before he got super relevant. It was before Snake had his big return. It was before Sonic became super big, which granted, I do think Roy beat Sonic. But it was before a lot of the DLC that really screws Roy over came out, and before a lot of his bad matchups, I should say, became more prevalent in the meta. So I was like, fuck it. Game & Watch is probably going to be the best secondary for matchups, so I'm just going to play him. And that happened for a bit, and then Aegis came out, aka Pyra and Mythra. Aegis was a lot of fun for me to play when I started picking them up. So I decided that I was going to add them to my roster. For a bit I kept in Game & Watch, but then I decided to throw them out. And I was a Roy main, Pyra and Mythra, aka Aegis secondary. This lasted for about half a year. And then I picked up Cloud because I had fun playing him. And it was kind of a situation where I didn't really want Aegis to be the character I automatically defaulted to if my Roy was playing bad. So I would just go Cloud, because it's similar enough, and I feel Cloud is a bit closer Roy than Aegis is, which is why I felt more comfortable playing him when I didn't feel my Roy was at its best. But it was like that for a couple years. I ended up adding Corrin after seeing Shaddix blow up in late 2023 to early 2024 for a couple months, but after 2.5 months, I was like, okay, you know what? This isn't working. My gameplay's just getting worse despite me having more experience with a lot of these characters because I'm trying to divide my attention so much between 4 characters. It's not worth it. I just need to go back to only 2 characters. Especially because even with Cloud, even with Corrin, I still had a lot of issues with specifically Kazuya. And ended up trying to pick up a Min for him, which didn't work too well. I ended up trying to bring back my Game & Watch, which also didn't work too well. And it just got to a point where I was exhausted, and I came to that realization of only needing to use the 2 characters. So I went back to just Roy and Aegis. And here's where I'm at now. Because Honestly, I am not too confident in Roy in the meta right now. I've been playing Roy for a while, the entire 7 years that Ultimate has been out, as well as ever since his release in Smash 4 in 2015. I've been playing Roy for over not 3 years, for over 10 years in Smash. And I love playing Roy. I love the character. Super fun to play as. But I just don't think that he is consistent enough in the meta we have. Like we see Ataru fell out of the top 50 this year pretty hard, and I think he only top 8'd 2 major events. We see Hyper Kirby has had some good placements, but still hasn't hit a top 8 yet. Cola's top 8 placements have dropped significantly. They're nothing like they were in, let's say, 2022, for example. And it's just really unfortunate because a lot of that can be stemmed to the modern meta. While I don't hate it, it's just much harder for Roy to succeed in the modern meta, especially without a secondary. And over the past few months, I've become much more of a co-main with Roy and Aegis than I have a Roy main and Aegis secondary. And honestly, I'm debating whether or not I should keep playing Roy in general, because he is my favorite character to play as, but there's so many different characters that I could be, I feel, doing better with. Especially because I have that confidence in Aegis. I have that belief. I'm one of the people that's still like, yeah, Aegis, I play them, and I don't think they're outside of top 10. In fact, I think they're in the top 5. I will huff that copium, and I will say that, yeah, I think that they're top 5 in the game. I have the confidence in them. And it sucks that I don't in Roy, but I've seen so many struggles with him, not just in the matchups myself, but also from the higher level players like Goblin before he ended up retiring and only going to locals, like Cola, like Ataru, like Hyper Kirby, like Flo from France. And it's just really unfortunate because I have other characters who I have done good with. I've been playing some for fun, obviously. I've been playing a lot of different characters for fun recently. I have a decent Mario, I have a decent Samus, a decent Yoshi. My Game & Watch is still really good. I have a fair Steve. I have a good Rob. I have a good enough Sonic. I have a fine Diddy Kong. I have a good Sephiroth. I have a lot of good characters, and while there's some that I don't think could do it, much like how I don't think Roy can do it, Sephiroth being the biggest example of that, it really sucks, man. Because having that doubt in the character you love to play most, it crushes you, man. Like, going through the roster for characters that Roy loses to at top level: Kazuya, Aegis, Steve, Joker. That's 4 of the 10 DLC characters that we've had, or sorry, 4 of the 12 DLC characters that we've had released. Then, even aside from that, he loses to Inkling, granted, not nearly as meta-relevant as Inkling was in early Ultimate, but still there. He loses to Pac-Man, even if it's not by a crazy amount. Greninja, although again, not by a crazy amount. And these, 55-45 matchups, most of them I'm okay with. But then we go a bit further and we get to Diddy Kong, much more meta-relevant character, one that Roy has quite a bit of struggles with. Snake, one of the most meta-relevant characters right now. A big rise in popularity and player base from when he was originally as popular as he was in 2019. He came back, and players are even better with him. A much worse matchup for Roy right now than it would be back then. Mr. Game & Watch, Roy really struggles to get And against moves like Game & Watch Nair, he can't get out of advantage state, or sorry, Roy can't get out of disadvantage state against Game & Watch. You aren't going to be getting too much mileage when it comes to strings because of how light Game & Watch is and how short his hurtbox can be. Pichu just always been a struggle. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of other people say. I think it's only 45-55 in Pichu favor compared to like -3 some people say. Peach always up and down with the viability, but Roy really does not like dealing with Peach. Luigi more meta relevant than ever. They've pushed it to the point where I do think that Luigi definitely beats Roy. Pikachu is absolute hell. Even worse matchup than Kazuya is for Roy, which is saying a lot coming from me. And yeah, I'm baffled by how Cola beat Shiny Mark in their first 2 sets. But it just... I don't know if I've already mentioned Steve, but if I haven't, then yeah, Steve. It's just... it sucks, man. I love this character. I love playing this character. But I just don't think that in the modern meta, it is worth it over some other characters that I could be playing. And I want to keep playing Roy. I'll probably keep playing Roy anyway, despite making this video. But it just... I don't know, man. I wish that Roy didn't struggle as much with the meta as he does now. Because it's not like he's a bad character. I still have him like 15th on my tier list, I believe. But it's unfortunate. Like, I know not every character you want to be good will be good. Hell, I've dealt with that with Kirby because Kirby's my favorite video game character, and he hasn't been good since 64. But for a character that I've put in so much time and commitment to, and for me having made that verbal commitment I did as soon as I heard that he got even better in Ultimate, I'm in a state of a lot of confusion, and I feel like dropping Roy and picking up a character I feel more confident in the meta may be the better decision, but I don't want to go back on my word, and I will feel shitty if I do, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, thank you guys for listening to my bullshit. I know that this isn't really a topic that a lot of people are interested in, given a lot of the Smash-related posts I've made and videos haven't had the best viewership, but it's just something that was on my mind that I wanted to talk about. So thanks to anyone who listened to my dumbass for as long as I've been going, and I'll see you in the next video.